Hey all, this is Redditusker. Nintendo has released new Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom trailers. Most of what's in these trailers is pretty much stuff we've seen before, but they do contain a few scenes of previously unseen footage. But even most of these are not that interesting, so I think I'm just going to focus on the ones I do think are notable, and at the end I'll talk about the one I think is most revealing. First one I want to talk about is this shot where Zelda is holding the Master Sword. You can see here clearly that she's holding the broken Master Sword, which I think reflects some supporting evidence for the idea that Zelda's in the past and the Master Sword was sent into the past for her to fix it. I'm pretty sure the time travel Zelda's in the past theory is the predominant theory in the Zelda community right now, so I'll probably stop harping on about it. Speculation and predictions are a lot less fun when everybody agrees with you. Next, there's a shot of the towers that we've seen all over the place, and we can see it much clearer here. It looks like these towers are actually going to be well defended. You'll probably have to clear out the camp to access the tower and then be able to map out the region. I haven't really talked about the towers so far because there's so little information, but I think it's fair to assume that they are going to serve the exact same purpose that they did in Breath of the Wild, where they'll map out the area when you get to them. And the only difference will be getting to the top of the tower will be a little different, probably requiring a combat encounter rather than just climbing up to it. In a different trailer, they show off for the first time the new Boss Bokoblin enemy variant type. This trailer actually has a lot of new scenes, but like I said, I'm only going to talk about the ones I think are interesting. And among the interesting ones is this one, where Link is using a very small sword. It seems to be made of those new Bokoblin horns. What caught my attention is it's so small that I thought maybe it's possible it's a new one-handed weapon type. Sadly, in the clip he doesn't swing the weapon normally. That would have allowed us to confirm that. He does a spin attack, which is something that I assume he would be able to do with these anyway. It probably is just a normal sword and it's shorter than normal. But it would have been really cool if there's a new dagger moveset. Or maybe if daggers do extra sneak attack damage, something along those lines. Actually, that's a really good idea. I would really appreciate dagger weapons that do extra sneak critical damage. And finally, there's a very brief scene where Link is shooting an arrow. He's shooting this arrow in what appears to be Tarrytown. The houses have that distinct Tarrytown architecture, which means the town's probably safe, so that's good to know. Alright, now finally for the important one. In this scene you see Link running across a cliff in the Gerudo area next to the 7 heroine statues. As you can see, the 7 heroine statue area looks very different than it did before. You can clearly see 4 of them, and you might be able to see the 5th one in the background. The sword of one of them has also moved and is now in the center. And the entire area is overrun with sand, with the statues buried up to their waists. The background shows the Gerudo Desert is absolutely devastated in sandstorms. You can't see anything, and you certainly can't see Gerudo Town, so who knows how that's fared. Now, I think in the center where the sword is, that might be a sinkhole, which would explain where the statues have gone to. They might be slowly falling into this sinkhole, which might also explain why the sword is there without its statue. It might have gotten disconnected from the 5th statue you can kind of see in the back, pulled down by the force of the sinkhole. Now, this whole situation has some very interesting implications. In a previous video, I proposed the idea that the main gameplay loop of Tears of the Kingdom would involve going into these various regions, and each region would have a natural disaster of some kind that was caused by the upheaval, and that Link would have to help remedy. In the Zora Domain area, it's probably this black sludge you can see all over the place. The waters in Zora Domain look contaminated, and this black sludge can be seen falling from the Sky Islands into many of those lakes and areas. I noticed in my other video that Sidon in this clip doesn't have his Tear of the Kingdom, but he does have it in a different cutscene. So my assumption is the champion descendants will be able to go to these areas with you, the areas that are associated with their general region. So Sidon in the Zora Domain area, Riju in the desert, Teba's son in the Rito areas, and you'll be tasked to figure out and then fix whatever's happening in these areas. And once you do, you'll probably be able to get a Tear of the Kingdom which you will give to the champion descendant before moving on to another region. In Sidon's case specifically, he'll probably also become king of Zora's Domain, since he's not wearing his crown here, but he does wear his crown here where he has the Tear. Now for the Goron area, maybe it's malice-filled rocks is the problem. Malice contamination having seeped into the stones. In the trailer scene where Link is fighting a Goron, Malice seems to be radiating out of the rocks in the arena. So if it's sludge in Zora's domain, and Malice poisoning in Death Mountain, then maybe the environmental disaster that you have to deal with in Gerudo Desert is this enormous sandstorm. Maybe you can't see very well in it and you have to navigate slowly through it. And also the sinkholes that you see in several areas. There's a sinkhole here with the sword, and you see sinkholes in the trailer. So if I'm right, you and Riju figure out what the problem is. You explore around, you fix it, Riju gets a tear at the end, you get a power from the tear that you can take to other places. I think the whole thing falls pretty well in line with how I suspect the game's loop is going to work. But that's the end of this video. Let me know if you think I'm wrong or if I'm onto something, and as always, thank you very much for watching.